Hello and welcome to Newsmakers for this Thursday, April the 25th, 2024. I'm Louie Butko and thank you for joining us today. And on today's show, I'm very pleased to be joined by Hamilton rocker and artist Tom Wilson to discuss his new musical, Beautiful Scars, co-written by Shaun Smyth and based on his 2017 memoir, which made its debut last night at Theatre Aquarius here in Hamilton. The musical explores Wilson's search for identity after discovering that his birth mother gave him up for adoption. And later on in the show, we'll be joined by actress Valerie Planche. She plays Janie in the show, and we'll get her thoughts on the play. But first, let's hear from Wilson himself, who we caught up with before rehearsal this morning down at Theatre Aquarius as we took the show on the road, and where I asked, with the debut in the books yesterday, how was he feeling?
A deeper emotion than I felt writing the book, deeper emotion than watching the documentary on the book, and deeper emotion than actually writing the play. Being in a room filled with people who were moved in the same way that I was, it was a little overwhelming. I mean, there are depths of sadness and there are heights of joy in this play. This play is a celebration of identity, of Indigenous identity, and a celebration of women as survivors in this world, and their resilience and their ability to keep moving and bringing love to this planet.
You mentioned the book, you mentioned the movie. Why was a musical the next vessel to tell this story? Was that always the plan, or how did that come about?
It was never the plan. Writing a second book that I'm doing for Random House was never a plan. Having an art exhibit at Beckett Gallery right now on Locke Street, that wasn't really part of the plan either. It just seems to be coming together that way. When you open up your heart and do your very best to speak the truth and show people respect and patience and understanding, it's amazing what great things happen for you. The story itself, my ego does not need to have a play on an A-room stage here in Hamilton at Theatre Aquarius, but I do have the need to keep telling this story. It's an Indigenous story. It's a story of identity. It's a 60s scoop story. Once again, it is a story of a woman as a survivor. So, as Norval Morrisseau, the great shaman and artist, said, if Indigenous people don't tell their stories, nobody else will. So we're here to tell this story.
Now, was the music in your head? Your music's so personal anyway. So when a story like this comes out, where you talk about, the struggles you went through, the struggles your family went through, how was that turning that into music? Because I'm sure music's always been something that's personal to you anyway.
Well, there's songs that are written specifically for characters in this play that I've actually been out singing. I took most of the songs that are in this play, the new ones, I've had out on the road for 2 years. I've been working them, I've been performing them for audiences, I've been watching the response to them. And then there's other songs like old Junk House hit Out of My Head. That's in this play. A song I wrote with Serena Ryder. The music, the co-writers of the music on this play with me. I wrote every song. I wrote it with Serena Ryder and Tara Lightfoot and Daniel Lanois and Matt Anderson and Stephen Fearing. It's the songwriters alone would fill this hall many times over.
You mentioned the songwriters. Let's talk about your co-writer, Shaun Smyth. What was the impact that he brought to your story, and how difficult was that? Opening up, you've opened up so much already, but what did it mean to really trust someone like Shaun to tell this story with you?
Shaun is a true believer, another person that leads with love, and an ally to the Indigenous community. So he was somebody that I gave him my book after seeing his wonderful play, Fire on Ice. And I thought, hey, maybe this could go on the stage. I don't know, have a look at it. That's a little informal discussion. But he basically put the shape of this play together. I had to fill in the blanks. I joke that he went out to the woods in his pickup truck and walked miles through the snow and cut down a tree and dragged it back and dragged it into the house and put it up in the living room. And I danced down and put all the decorations on it.
Now, what does it mean to you to debut this show? You mentioned it a little bit there, in an A theater in Hamilton, Theatre Aquarius, but what this building represents, the history it has, what does it mean to you to debut your show here?
Well, more so than the history it has, it's the history that it's making now with Mary Frances Moore in charge. I don't know. I don't want to speak out of turn, but I don't know if an Indigenous play would have made it onto the stage in the past without Mary Frances Moore. Mary Frances Moore has an understanding of the planet that we live on and the human interactions that are going on that need to be represented on this stage. You got to remember, this is the very first autobiographical Indigenous play to ever be produced anywhere. It's also one of the first Indigenous plays to debut in an A room. Indigenous theater does not usually get this kind of opportunity. So it's my responsibility, it's the cast's responsibility, the technician's responsibility to deliver the most potent message for our audiences to feel, because this is an opportunity.
You mentioned Mary Frances. What was it like having her direct your story? How was it when taking your hands on and just the trust in her to get to tell this story?
Mary Frances Moore was my choice. She's a firecracker of a gal, there's no doubt about it. She also would come over to my house every Monday and we'd have coffee and I'd make a little snack for us and we'd work on the script. She was an excellent guide and a very important ally to me. This play wouldn't be happening without her. Not only on a business community level, but on a creative level. And
you've talked, you said earlier about this story being about, an Indigenous woman, your mother, those kind of story survivors, having that touch, her touch on this story. What kind of impact did you feel?
Deep. The impact I'm still feeling today. I dropped off some monster donuts at my mom's apartment on the way over here today. She's coming to the play tomorrow. And I told her how revealing and how important our story is for other people, to inspire other people. We create art to inspire other people. Anybody who looks at one of my paintings at the Beckett Gallery on Locke Street and says, I can do that, I've achieved my goal, because opening up the door of possibilities to the next artist to walk through is our job. And my mother's story, my story, and the Indigenous identity story are all things that are important to tell. As I say, we have a responsibility to all the communities to bring this story to the stage.
Now, your son is part of the cast. What was that experience getting to see him portray young Tom? And has he always been young Tom, and now he's finally playing the role on stage, or what was that like?
Well, for him it might be a little conflicting, but for me it's a natural progression for our professional relationship. We've written songs. He's written songs for City and Color and Colin James, and he's written songs for Blackie and the Rodeo Kings. So he and I work together. We do movie soundtracks now, because we're working on our second film soundtrack. So we work closely together, creatively. Anyway, the fact that he's on stage and he's got the most beautiful singing voice out of anyone I've ever met, it's nothing but, it makes me feel welcome to my own environment.
And what have you seen from Sheldon Elder?
Sheldon Elder is he is a straight up guy. He's a friend, a confidant, and somebody. He lives in Edmonton. When I was out at the Juno Awards a couple years, I had he and his wife Christy, who plays Bunny Wilson in the play. We went out for breakfast and we hung out, and I love Sheldon Elder. I love Christy. They're wonderful people. This entire cast, there's a real love-in going in backstage, and support. We are a microcosm of the society that we should be living in right now, and that's really what art creates. Art creates a world inside a world that is actually a better representation of the human spirit than it is sometimes out in our streets as we sit across from the Central Division Hamilton Police Station.
What was it like seeing someone portray you, especially in especially in a story so personal? Like how do you?
Nah, I don't give a shit about that.
You don't, eh?
No, I don't care about that. I mean, we're working to create art that resonates with people, no matter how we do that, and no matter how many fiery hoops we have to jump through, we're going to do it.
What are you hoping somebody who comes to this show walks out of with?
The ability to carry on a conversation that is not happening enough in this country, and the need to be able to turn that conversation into action.
That was Tom Wilson as we caught up with him earlier today. And before we go, we also had the chance to speak with actress Valerie Planche. And we started our chat by me asking her what it has meant to be a part of this show.
Incredible. I have never been part of a musical before, and so this has been new to me. I've been an actor and director for like a lot of years, and this experience has been really exciting. Yeah.
Getting to tell this story specifically, and having Tom in the building, watching, giving notes, what was that like?
That's a great question, because last night was our first big audience, and I was super aware of how many people I think know Tom or think they know Tom. And then there's a point where that turns, and I think they recognize that there are things that they didn't think about. There are things that they didn't know as they were listening to his music. And so for me, that's super exciting to be. I'm a Métis woman myself, and so it's exciting to hear that turn of understanding and hear them have a deeper understanding of both Tom's life and what that is in the larger context, right, for that story in Canada.
We were just talking to Tom, and he says this cast, this crew specifically, there's something special about it. He says it's a microcosm of what a better world could be. What do you think he means by that?
We're a mixed bunch. Like in the crew and cast, we're a mixed bunch of people, mixed bunch of nations, mixed bunch of genders, and we've had discussions about colonization, what that means for each of us, right? How each of us can come to that discussion with what we know, what we don't know, and be open to hearing those other things that we may have not considered. Particularly in a Métis world for myself, but also in a gender world, you know, it's an amazing discussion to have. And in our room, we were all open to that. You know, that it's not an easy story Tom's telling, right? Not only if you have nothing to do with an Indigenous culture, but you are an immigrant who's come over for reasons you've had to leave your children, or or you've come over with one child and you had to give it up for adoption because you couldn't raise the child. It wasn't out of love, a lack of love or a lack of want. It's those stories as well that are resonating, I think, with Tom's story.
So it's fair to say this is unlike anything you've ever done as an actor.
Yeah, I would say that. I think there are few stories like this told as explicitly and openly in Canada right now, let alone in theater, right?
And then he was also just talking about getting to tell Indigenous stories. And he talked about this as a Métis woman. These aren't usually the venues for these kinds of stories. So to be able to be here at Theatre Aquarius in a major city like Hamilton, what it means to, even last night, the debut, but this whole run of shows here.
Yeah. It's true. Indigenous stories are told in smaller spaces, in black box spaces, or community spaces, which is great. But in the greater like theatrical ecology. We don't have Indigenous. We have Asian voices and Black voices now, which is incredible. And somehow a lack of Indigenous voices. So I am so excited to be part of this process and in this big way. This is a 700-seat house. You know, it's a colonized space. And so being able to put this story here and to have audiences really embrace it. Like, and I say audiences, last night was our first, but I loved the feeling in the room.
My thanks to Valerie Planche for joining me, and my thanks to Tom Wilson as well. Beautiful Scars by Tom Wilson and Shaun Smyth is on stage now through May 11th at Theatre Aquarius. And for tickets, you can go to theatreaquarius.org or at the box office at 190 King William Street. Thanks to Dwayne Worth for helping produce today's episode, and thank you for joining us today. Make sure you like and subscribe so you never miss an episode of this show or any of the other shows we have for you. And you can go to chch.com/podcast for more. One more time, thank you for joining us. From all of us here at CHCH, I'm Louie Butko. Have a great day.